Man, we've had a wonderful time at table. Now, time for conversation on chat back. Today's prompt: what difference does grace make? What are some ideas on how we can be a part of God's grace in the world? And again, you all have such rich responses. One said, I can be a part of God's grace in the world by remembering that I receive God's grace every day, if not every moment. I begin to share that grace when I let others know that I realize that.
Absolutely. Day by day by day, morning by morning, new mercies, new grace we see. And this person has that idea of sharing, not keeping it all to themselves, but to share that grace with everyone that they see and they can recognize it. Another says, you're never too late for God's grace. Never too late.
I love that, and never too old for God's grace either. And I'm learning that more and more. So I love how God's grace meets us wherever we are on whatever timeline, and wherever we are at whatever point in life, God's grace is always there. A few of our members are going through some significant health challenges, and one said, I'm so grateful, even in this second longest desert of recovery, because I know that God's grace is sufficient for us, myself, others going through this as well. And God does meet us even during the uncertainty of health conditions and some of the challenges we face with that. Oftentimes, God works through people and those who are called to the medical profession. So we're grateful for this witness to God's healing presence and healing's grace. And our prayers are with all of you who are facing various health challenges today, that grace would come with healing for you.
And that God's grace is sufficient. And sometimes during times like that, the question may arise, God, where are you? And God is right there alongside with carrying. And so God's grace is sufficient. Another says, for the song that was sung during offertory, what a powerful song, Grateful. And this person says, that's exactly what I am, grateful, filled with gratitude. And so that grace reminds us about the gifts and the blessings that we have, that we can be grateful.
Another says, grace lets me know that though I'm not perfect, God accepts me anyway. The difference this makes is the feeling of belongingness unconditionally. What I can do is live without judgment and with love. It says it all.
And doesn't that counteract some of the messages that we may have received in our lives, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, that we don't belong, that God doesn't love us, we're unlovable? That's all unstuff. And that this person has a handle on, God does love us, that we are worthy, that God's grace is sufficient and covers each and every one of us, no matter who we are, no matter where we are on our journey, and no matter what we have done. There's another that says we've been using the series from Sanctified Art during our e-blast. And if you haven't received our daily e-devotionals, we'd encourage you to sign up for those devotionals. But this one says, I love the poem from Reverend Sarah of the Sanctified Art creative team. And this line, in a scorekeeping world, grace doesn't play by the rules. Absolutely. Grace is out of the box and off the charts.
Absolutely. It made me think of those teachers who used to give us those grades, and some would say they grade on a curve and all that. Well, that's not even at play here. It's just all grace. God receives, and God invites us to live these powerful lives of grace and joy. Another says, grace is the gift that never stops giving for us to share, and as we do, there is more. So grace has this exponential thing going on, that the more grace we receive and the more grace we give, the more grace multiplies. It's a mystery, and yet it's real and it's powerful.
That's right. And it can be always, like our theme, full to the brim. We can give and give and give, and it's always full to the brim of God's grace. And another says, I believe grace makes a difference when it's shared with others, when they are least expecting it or feeling the least deserving of it. I feel grace is demonstrated through unexpected acts of kindness, those random acts of kindness that we can walk down the street, we can call on the phone, we can do those things that God brings to mind. If God brings and Spirit brings someone to mind and to your heart, act on it. I would encourage you strongly. Call them or pray for them or send them an email or a letter.
Love it. Surprise somebody today with grace. Surprised by grace. It could be another message, another theme. Wonderful. And then here's another one. Grace makes a difference in how grace shows up as favor and kindness when I least expect it. Again, there's this surprise thing going on. I'm always grateful. We can be a part of God's grace in the world by showing love, favor, and kindness to one another. Grace is amazing, and it's also really pretty simple when we just start doing it.
It's just that simple. Just start, take that first move. God's already made the move, and we can respond. And we can respond giving God's grace to people with skin on as well.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.